From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Weathering the storms.
After you put all this work and effort into calving them out, you have with their mother, and then you're just going to have to take a hit.
How ranchers in North Dakota are doing after two major late-season blizzards hit the state. Iowa making history when it comes to ethanol, as the Big Four meat packers face tough questions on Capitol Hill.
The price for meat is not immune to the global factors that are causing inflation.
I come here before you today and try to save what is left of rural America, because rural America is under attack by the greed and corruption of the Big Four that are in question here today.
Beef leaders get grilled right now on AgDay. Good morning, I'm Quentin Griffiths. The beef industry continuing to be the focus on Capitol Hill this week, with lawmakers inviting ranchers and the leaders of the Big Four meat packers to testify before the House Ag Committee. Democratic Chairman David Scott of Georgia saying he hoped the hearing would be a catalyst for turning things around for cattle producers, while Ranking Member Republican G.T. Thompson of Pennsylvania said that absent findings of wrongdoings, it was time to stop demonizing the packers out of political convenience. First, lawmakers heard from producers, including the president of the National Cattlemen's Beef Association.
Now imagine waking up every single day and knowing that the cattle that you've birthed, fed, and raised are not going to make you any money because there isn't enough room in the rigged system for the small cattle farmer to make a buck. The share of the retail dollar, the complete disconnect from the farmer to the grocer, is what's bankrupting the farmers and ranchers.
In 1975, the year I started ranching, the farm-to-retail spread for beef stood at 71.3%. We ranchers and feeders were able to retain 71.3 cents of every dollar spent by the consumer at the grocery store. In 2021, the farm-to-retail spread was 36.5%. Over the course of my career in ranching, my income has been cut in half.
Make no mistake. Curbing rampant inflation and skyrocketing input costs, addressing urgent labor shortages, and increasing market transparencies are the true immediate needs of producers.
Then it was the meat packers' turn, with representatives trying to get the company leaders to explain what's going on with prices, packer margins, and issues in the industry.
We acknowledge that the rising price of many goods, including food, poses significant challenges for consumers worldwide. The price for meat is not immune to the global factors that are causing inflation. Supply and demand, labor constraints, transportation challenges, and rising feed costs add even greater pressure, and it all leads to increased prices at retail.
For our part, JBS purchases from cattle feeders and producers of all sizes in cash markets, auction barns, video auctions, and under AMAs. We are active in the cash market every day, and we will compete for quality cattle in the market wherever and however producers wish to sell them.
We had that anomaly during COVID that drove this, but the biggest factor we have today is oversupply of cattle relative to industry capacity. But that's changing, and we're already seeing it change. As we look forward from here, we're going to see cattle prices go up, and we're going to see the beef profit for packers go down. The profit's going to shift back to the cattle production segments.
And Mr. King, you have mentioned the constrained labor pool at the height of the pandemic. To what degree have those shortages been resolved?
Congresswoman, we are largely staffed at this point. We still deal with a great deal of absenteeism.
But during the pandemic, Mr. King, can you explain the labor pool situation at the height of the pandemic?
Absolutely. We were constrained. For example, we would be operating, if the plant was operating at all, we'd be operating 30-40% in the earliest of days. Just a year ago, we were no better than 75 or 80% of capacity.
This hearing follows another earlier this week about the beef industry before the Senate Ag Committee, where lawmakers debated the Cattle Price Discovery and Transparency Act of 2022. NCBA saying that a government mandate on cattle sales included in this plan is not the solution the industry is looking for. A developing story following questions about what Ukraine will get planted this year. The Biden administration announcing hundreds of millions of dollars in global food aid as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. USDA saying that it, along with the U.S. Agency for International Development, are drawing down the full balance of the Bill Emerson Humanitarian Trust. It will be part of an effort to give $670 million in food assistance to countries in need to prevent global food insecurity. Now, it says an additional 40 million people could be pushed into poverty and food insecurity due to Russia's aggression. Now, the agency saying it will use the trust's $282 million to get U.S. food commodities to Ethiopia, Kenya, Somalia, Sudan, South Sudan, and Yemen, areas that have relied in the past on wheat imports from Ukraine. It will use $388 million in additional funding through the Commodity Credit Corporation to move those supplies overseas. It's the first time since 2014 that the U.S. has used this emergency funding authority. Iowa will become the first state to require gas stations have pumps selling fuel with at least 15% ethanol. Republican Governor Kim Reynolds proposed the bill that received final legislative approval this week. Ethanol production consumes roughly half of the state's corn crop. Now, Iowa leads the nation in corn and ethanol production. Most gas sold nationwide is blended with 10% ethanol. Now, the bill includes exemptions for gas stations selling less than 300,000 gallons of fuel a year, and stations with old storage tanks can get waivers. Some California farmers say their insurance companies are refusing to renew their wildfire coverage. Now, some are disputing the policy cancellations, arguing some of the farms and ranches are not in extreme fire risk zones. The California Department of Insurance is aware of the issue. The agency says it's conducting a survey to identify which geographic areas are impacted by coverage restrictions in order to recommend potential solutions to address property owners' concerns. And that wildfire threat remains in the west, but there's also concern about severe weather just east. Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us with more. Matt.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. Drier air back to the southwest, but even a chance for those stronger storms out ahead of that dry line. Behind it, though, this is where we've got that elevated fire risk here in the red, south of Albuquerque, north of El Paso, but including most of New Mexico. And then you see that fire danger still highlighted from Amarillo and Lubbock down toward El Paso and back toward Vegas. Most of Arizona also highlighted for the dry conditions, very breezy conditions as well as we head through today. If we look east of there, though, that dry line sets up, and as it does, it is going to be bringing the chance for some pop-up supercell thunderstorms in this area highlighted in red out ahead of that dry line. As another system, though, forms by the time we get into Friday afternoon and evening, that is going to bring another chance for some stronger storms farther to the north and east, especially for parts of eastern Kansas and Nebraska, with some stronger storms that could be likely overnight and into Saturday. And Justin Kinnan showing us a day in the life on the farm in Cozad, Nebraska. He says his kids wanted to go along as they check out the irrigation equipment. He says they're praying for some rain in central Nebraska, and there's a possibility you could see some later this week. I'll have more on your forecast coming up.
The corn market continues to be hot right now, but for how much longer? We take a closer look ahead. That's coming up in analysis, and later, the life of a North Dakota rancher in the middle of calving season. How historic blizzards have made the job more complicated in the country.
It's time to sign up for the 2022 United Pork Americas Conference in Orlando, Florida. Register today at unitedporkamericas.com and join us September 7th through the 9th.
A major recession is coming. That's the warning from Deutsche Bank economists. It comes after the investment banking company earlier this month became the first major bank to forecast a U.S. recession, but calling for a mild one. The problem, according to the bank, is that while inflation may be peaking, it will take a long time before it gets back down to the Federal Reserve's goal of 2%. Now, the good news, it predicts the economy will eventually rebound by mid-2024 as the Fed reverses course on its inflation fight. We're joined today by Darren Fry with Water Street Solutions. Darren, as we look at this corn market, about a week ago we poked up over $8. You know, that has a lot of questions about, well, where do we go from here? What's possible? What factors are playing into this market longer term? What do you see out there?
Well, historically, you know, it is a very high price, but we're only in spring. We haven't planted a crop yet. And there's a lot of things that could go right or wrong during this growing season. What we see around the globe, you know, Clinton, is Chinese corn is $12, and we're seeing corn in Brazil be over $8, and they have a drought going on in that safrinha crop. So it's hard to say if they'll grow that top yield or not and make those numbers that both CONAB and USDA has put out. And then you have our crop, and you have a smaller acreage number to start. So I think we're going to lift corn here as we get into May, June still. I think there's upside, but we are in unprecedented times and unprecedented levels for this time of year. So volatility will continue to be front and center.
Have we settled the acreage question? I mean, at this point, are we just kind of going to expect the acres that we have, or is there a chance that corn could try to buy a few more acres here? Because it doesn't feel like they could buy a whole bunch.
Well, I don't know if we've settled it. That's a great question. I guess I was thinking in my mind that if we saw the ratio from soybeans to corn get under 2.0, get down to 1.9 or even 1.85, you're buying all kinds of corn acres. But with the cost of fertilizer, you know, that's a challenge for some farmers. They just are not going to run the numbers and say, I'm going to do it even though I'm taking a lot of risk with this fertilizer. They're just going to stick to the rotations. I think some farmers will switch, but they need the incentive to do so. And we got the weather kind of going against this. I mean, if this was an early planting season where we're already, you know, 20% planted and we got nice weather ahead of us, I think we would get those acres. But I'm just not sure. The later we get, that favors smaller acres in corn, unless we really see price incentivize them, and larger bean acres.
Great point, Darren. Sure appreciate it. Thank you so much for being here. We'll be back with more Ag Day coming up in just a minute.
For marketing strategy specific to your operation, contact Water Street Solutions at 866-249-2528 or online at www.waterstreet.org. Your next piece of equipment is on machinerypete.com. Search equipment from dealerships across the country to find what you're looking for. Only on machinerypete.com.
Meteorologist Matt Yurosavik joins us again, and Matt, farmers in the Midwest would really like to get out planting, but you're seeing more rain in the forecast.
Yeah, Clinton, that's right. They really need to get planting, but more rain is going to be likely, especially as we head into the weekend and staying unsettled next week. But before we get to that, let's talk about our severe storm threat as we head through today and tomorrow. Now, for today, that is going to be right down through really eastern portions of Oklahoma down into northern Texas, but also coming up here into southern parts of Kansas. As this kind of low pressure system evolves and develops, as we head through Thursday night and into Friday, that threat moves north and east. And the better chance for some stronger storms is going to be eastern Kansas and eastern Nebraska as we head into the day on Friday. But still, some of the same areas that saw that severe threat on Thursday could see it again as we head through the day on Friday. So that's something that we'll continue to watch here over the next couple of days. And here's what it looks like. High pressure in the south and east, one system over the northern plains and another here with that dry line in Texas and Oklahoma. That's where we're going to be seeing storms firing up by Thursday evening. This is our first day of severe weather. You can see those storms popping up out ahead of that dry line. But by Friday morning, things starting to calm down as this system takes shape in the northern plains. As that happens, we start to see a lot more moisture come in, and this in the afternoon and evening is where we get our severe weather threat for day 2 on Friday. Meanwhile, notice northern plains here over into the Midwest starting to see more rain breaking out, and that's going to continue as we head into the weekend. Here's a look at that rainfall. A lot of it coming up through the center of the country, and again, right up into the northern plains and Midwest. Something that they don't need, but we will continue to keep an eye on. Temperatures will be cooler in the northern plains and the Midwest, but we're going to be pretty warm out ahead of that system, something that we'll continue to watch, especially as we head through the weekend and into next week with that ridge breaking down, becoming more active, especially into next week. That's a look around the country. Now let's take a look at the weather where you live. Plattsburgh, Missouri, showers and thunderstorms, a high of 63 degrees. Edgemont, South Dakota, mostly sunny with evening thunderstorms, a high of 67. And Bakersfield, California, sunny and mild, a high of 74 degrees.
Still ahead, ranchers in North Dakota battle back after dealing with blizzards over the last 2 weeks, and they hit in the middle of calving season.
Drover's Report on AgDay is brought to you by Long Range Apridomectin. If you're committed to peak performance, there's only one choice for your dewormer, Long Range Apridomectin. It's the first and only dewormer to offer up to 150 days of parasite control in one convenient dose.
One livestock specialist says significant herd liquidation seems inevitable this year. Daryl Peel is an extension livestock marketing specialist at Oklahoma State. He says the latest cattle on feed report showed a record April feedlot inventory of 12.1 million head. That's up 1.7% year over year. The quarterly inventory of steers on feed was up 1.8% year over year, while the inventory of heifers on feed was up 1.7% over 1 year ago. Now, he says placements came in much larger than expected, and he thinks the drought has something to do with it.
It makes me wonder if perhaps we're not already seeing, for example, some heifers that were originally considered to be replacement heifers now being redirected into feedlots in terms of the developing drought situation and the time of year and the lack of feed resources. We do know that cow slaughter, beef cow slaughter in particular, is very elevated. It's about for the year to date about 17.5% above a year ago. So it's pretty clear that we are doing some early liquidation of the cow herd at this point.
Peel says at the current pace of cow slaughter, the beef cow herd could decrease up to 4% year over year in 2022. It would be the largest yearly decrease in the beef cow inventory since the 1980s. More than 120,000 pounds of ground beef products are being recalled because there are concerns they could be contaminated with E. coli. Now, the beef was carried by brands including Thomas Farms, Nature's Reserve, and Market Side Butcher. It was manufactured between February 1st and April 8th. For details on the recall, head over to USDA's website. Coming up, the exhausting work of the rancher continues in North Dakota as they try to recover from 2 major blizzards in under 2 weeks in the country. Two blizzards in 2 weeks is a lot for anyone, but for ranchers in western North Dakota, it's been especially exhausting. As Jody Kurzman of AgDay affiliate KFYR reports, producers are working around the clock to protect their cattle, especially those newborn calves.
Lots of moisture here.
Edinger rancher.
Moisture is good.
Jackie Christman is documenting the aftermath of the latest weekend blizzard.
See how this fared last night.
The second in as many weeks.
Drier.
For the most part,
hi guys.
She's happy with what she's found.
Hi.
The Chrismans are just about done calving.
Hey guy.
They've only got 2 left, and most of their cattle weathered the storm safely.
You guys look good.
Beautiful moisture. I don't want to complain about the moisture. It's just real stressful on livestock.
It's so sloppy and muddy.
All that mud could lead to disease issues.
Try to do a really good vaccine program for these kind of deals. It's never going to be perfect.
Through the 2 April blizzards, the Chrismans have lost only a couple of calves.
I can't complain about just a few head, but it's still after you put all this work and effort into calving them out, you have them with their mother, and then you're just going to have to take a hit, I guess. And
Ron Volk ranches near Sentinel Butte. He recorded this video on his cell phone during the weekend blizzard. Rain before the snow created a different set of issues than the first blizzard. Once the rain turned to snow, the wind came up and created huge snow drifts.
We got snow drifts that are 8-10 foot tall. It's good moisture. You know, if the wind wouldn't blow and it left this wet, heavy snow even on the flats, it would have been a godsend.
Ron feels lucky to have minimal calf losses.
You're dealing with Mother Nature, and you do the best you can and put your animals in the best position that they can be in and hope for the best.
Right now, he's hoping for rain rather than a 3rd April blizzard. I'm Jody Kurzman reporting for your news leader.
All right, thank you, Jody. Now, Volk doesn't think these are drought-ending storms, but he hopes they might be the start of a different weather pattern that might finally bring the moisture that's desperately needed. And that's all the time we have this morning. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.